Chapter 1. Arrival on the island. The sea was as calm as a mirror when the boat docked at the wooden pier. Igor helped Anna down, and Mila and Sema jumped out after her, both with backpacks full of books, headphones, and something tasty just in case. "Well, here we are," said the father, wiping his forehead. Heaven on earth. The island really seemed like paradise. Palm trees bent over the snow, white sand, where huge shells lay lazily, and from the hill came the sound of a bell, as if someone welcomed their appearance. They were greeted at the pier by a frowning woman in her 60s wearing a straw hat. "Welcome," she said dryly. "My name is Tamara. I am the manager of the hotel Quiet Beach." Her voice didn't match the scenery. He was too tense, as if she was afraid the guests wouldn't leave, or that not everyone will leave. "We've been really looking forward to this vacation," Anna smiled, not noticing the chill in the hostess' tone. "I hope you have a good rest. Only, do not enter the northern part of the island. It's an old area. Dangerous. Snakes," Igor clarified. "Something like that," the woman replied evasively. "Come on, I'll show you your bungalows." The cabin stood a little apart from the others, right at the edge of the forest. From the window you could see the sea, and in the evenings, a lighthouse on a rock, the fire of which flashed every 10 seconds. It seemed abandoned, but the lights were on for some reason. "Who's watching the lighthouse?" Mila asked when they were having dinner on the terrace. "No one," Tamara replied, pouring tea. "No one has lived there for a long time." There was silence. Sema, who had been carefully examining the lighthouse through binoculars, suddenly frowned. Someone just waved his hand there. "Have you seen it?" "Stop making it up, Sem," Igor waved him off. "It's just a bird." But Mila couldn't sleep that night. The wind was raging outside the window, and she could hear something like words in its howls. She snuggled into the pillow and closed her eyes, but somewhere deep inside she had a feeling. This island is not what it seems. Chapter 2. The Old Lighthouse. The next morning, the sun was shining brightly, but there was no heat. A light breeze from the ocean brought coolness and the scent of salt. Anna went to the beach with a book. Igor went to a village on the other side of the island to see the local architecture, as he explained. And the children, without waiting for permission, took binoculars and water and went to the lighthouse. "We were told not to go there," Mila reminded them as they walked along the sun-faded path among the bushes. "They didn't tell us about the lighthouse," Sema replied with a sly smile. "Only about the north of the island. And the lighthouse is kind of in the east." Almost. The path went higher and higher, and soon they saw a stone tower. The lighthouse stood like a sentinel, staring into the sky. The walls were dilapidated, covered with wild ivy, and the doors didn't seem to have been opened for a long time. "I thought it would be newer," Mila muttered, disappointed. "And here, it looks like even the steps inside are rotten." "But the lights are working," Sema insisted. "So, someone definitely goes there." He went to the door and pulled the rusty handle. It creaked, but didn't budge. "It's locked," he sighed. "It's a pity." Mila looked around and suddenly noticed something strange. There were fresh footprints in the ground at the foot of the lighthouse. They were small, as if they were barefoot, and they walked from the back of the building towards the cliffs. "Someone was here recently," she said softly. Sema sat down and touched one of the tracks. It was slightly damp, as if someone had passed through just an hour ago. "Maybe they're just children from the village," he suggested. "There are almost no residents here, Sem, and no one talked about children." When they returned to the bungalow, Igor was already at home. He brought fruits he had bought from the locals and was in a good mood. Only Tamara, passing by the terrace, froze for a second when she noticed a dry ivy leaf from the lighthouse in Sema's hand. "Have you been to the lighthouse?" "What is it?" she asked with unexpected sharpness. We just looked outside, Mila replied. Tamara nodded, but her eyes were strained. Children, the lighthouse doesn't like people climbing into it, especially children. That night, Sema woke up to a strange sound, as if someone was knocking on the glass. He sat up in bed, his heart pounding. The curtain swayed slightly from the draft. He went to the window and cautiously looked out. There was a figure standing by the lighthouse, against the moonlight. She was thin, almost transparent, with well-defined shoulders and an outstretched arm, as if she were waving again. But now, right to him. Sema recoiled and abruptly closed the curtain. Chapter 3. The Night Shadow. Mila woke up to the sound of someone quietly closing the door. She immediately sat up in bed and listened. A faint light filtered through the crack under the door, as if someone had come out of the cabin with a lantern. She cautiously approached the window. Sema stood on the veranda, wrapped in a blanket, and looked towards the lighthouse. This, she whispered, opening the door. Why aren't you sleeping? He turned around, startled. Did you see her too? Mila nodded silently. They stood side by side, peering into the night darkness. The light from the lighthouse slowly rotated, picking out spots of the beach and the edge of the jungle. Someone was there. I didn't make it up, Sema whispered. Yesterday and today? At first he waved his hand. Now he just stood there. I believe you, Mila said. Just please don't go there alone, okay? The next morning, she told her parents about the night figure. Igor waved him off. Fatigue, overwork. Get enough sleep, everything will pass. Anna wasn't so sure. Maybe it's one of the staff? She suggested thoughtfully. Or fishermen. Fishermen don't go to the lighthouse, Tamara remarked gloomily, who was just bringing tea. And again, an awkward silence. It was like every adult on the island knew something they weren't saying. In the afternoon, the family went on an excursion to the lagoon. Everything was beautiful, emerald water, exotic birds, corals. But Mila still couldn't get the night figure out of her head. When they returned to the cabin, the sun was setting. The lighthouse was already flickering with its usual fire. And then something strange happened. Sema ran up to Mila, confused. Where's my notebook? Which one? The one in which I drew the lighthouse and footprints. They searched the room inside and out. The notebook was nowhere to be found. I left it on the table. Precisely. Sema insisted. Mila went outside. The wind picked up. Something was rustling at the entrance. She looked down. There, in the grass, was a page from a notebook. One, with a drawing of a lighthouse. Only now has a shadow been added to the top of the tower. It's human. It's almost indistinguishable, but it's not exactly drawn by a family. The handwriting was different. That night, Mila took a flashlight and sat on the porch. She waited. The wind blew clouds across the sky. The lighthouse continued to rotate. The moon came out from behind the clouds. And in another flash of light, she saw a figure stood on the sand by the water, tall and motionless, like a statue, without a face, mute. The lighthouse blinked and the figure disappeared. But when Mila returned to the room, there was another page from Sema's notebook on her pillow. Their house was painted on it. Windows. And someone is inside. In the corner. Someone who shouldn't be there. Chapter 4. The Forbidden Path. On the fourth day of her vacation, Anna couldn't stand it. We need to go there, she said at breakfast. To the northern part of the island. Why are they so afraid of her? Maybe because it's dangerous there? Igor remarked dryly. Everything on this island already seems strange to me, Mila interjected. To be honest. Sema nodded in agreement. Tamara was silent again when I asked about the figure at the lighthouse. She just left. She didn't even answer. Igor sighed heavily. But only during the day. And quickly. Without heroism. The road to the north was overgrown, but the path was still discernible. First there were palm trees. Then the trees became lower, more gnarled, and instead of sand, dry needles and rotten things crunched underfoot. It's like this forest is old, Sema whispered. And something's holding him back. Or hiding it, Mila added. Soon they saw the sign, almost erased, with barely legible letters. Passage is prohibited. The collapse zone. Strange, Igor chuckled. There are no collapses visible here. Did you notice? Anna ran her finger along the wood next to the plaque. Someone cut out the symbol. It looks like a solar circle, an ancient Slavic sign of protection. On an island in the ocean? Igor was surprised. Symbols travel with people, she replied, or with those who remain. After 20 minutes they came out to the hut, abandoned, with a sunken roof and a sagging door. There was a bench near the wall with a rusty kettle on it. Cobwebs hung between the beams. Mila cautiously went inside. There are scribbled sheets on the floor. A diary? It's French, Anna whispered, scanning the pages. Marine terminology, ship, the crash, the lighthouse. Something flashed in the corner. Sema picked up an object, an antique pocket compass. His needle was spinning without stopping. Is it broken? He asked. Or, he can't choose a direction, Mila muttered. When they got back to the trail, the sky had darkened. The wind picked up. The lighthouse, visible in the distance, seemed taller than before and seemed to lean forward, as if watching. It's time for us to get back, Igor said, speeding up his pace. And at that moment, Sema stopped abruptly. Look, he pointed into the grass. There was a fresh toy lying there, a clockwork penguin, just like he had at home. Just older, dirty, with a crack on his side. I lost one last year in another city. He choked out. That's impossible. Don't touch anything, Anna said sternly. Quickly to the exit. When they came out of the forest, a thick fog suddenly descended on the island. The air became humid and echoing. Everything seemed to be happening, not what it was this morning. And in the sky above the lighthouse, a gray, blurry figure flashed by. It was as if someone was looking down on them. Chapter 5. The Legend of the Captain. Anna spent the evening on her laptop, connected to the unstable internet of the hotel. The words from the diary found in the hut were spinning in my head. The lighthouse was empty, but the fire did not go out. The captain did not return. The team died or disappeared. Only the call remained. She entered the keywords into the search. Ship, captain, lighthouse, disappearance, island. An hour later, after dozens of outdated forums and scraps of archived records, she came across an article. Almost no one visited this site. The Legend of the Disappearance of La Belle Helene, 1897. A French merchant ship sailing from Colombo disappeared without a trace off the coast of an unknown island in the tropical zone. The last radio signal was interrupted by the phrase, "Fire is calling." The captain did not leave. According to the stories of local fishermen, a year later a glowing lighthouse appeared on one of the islands. Although the structure was listed as abandoned, those who approached him felt a sense of anxiety and déjà vu. Some of them disappeared. Anna paled. The phrase from the diary was repeated verbatim. "Have you ever heard of La Belle Helene?" she asked Tamara in the morning. The woman put down the cup, noisily, with a tremor. "You'd better not bring up the old stuff," she whispered. "What is left in the sea must be forgotten." But the lighthouse. Isn't someone keeping the fire going? Mila, who was sitting next to him, insisted. "The fire doesn't extinguish itself," Tamara said softly. "But it doesn't burn for no reason." The children went back to the lighthouse. But this time, something was different. The fog persisted even during the day. The light seemed dim, as if the fire shone through the water. At the base of the tower, they noticed a fresh inscription scratched into the stone. "We stayed here, and we don't remember why." "This is not a game," Mila whispered. "This is not a tourist legend. Something is real here." In the evening, Anna gathered everyone on the terrace. She was holding a copy of the article she had found. It all fits. The ship, the crew, the lighthouse. The island is not on all maps. It seems that he appeared, or became noticeable, only after the crash. And if the captain, did you stay? You think it's his spirit? Igor grinned. Well, that's enough already. The next step is to summon him with a flashlight by the campfire. And if it's not a ghost? Sema intervened. Something stuck? Mila glanced at her brother. He was pale. His eyes have grown more mature these days. "I heard him calling," Sema whispered. "At night. Through the radio. He was talking. Return the compass. Mom, he wants us to give him something back." Anna looked at the antique compass lying on the table. The arrow was still running amok, spinning in a circle, and the lighthouse was blinking through the window, as if it was winking. Or he was counting. 1, 2, 3. Pause. 1, 2. Morse code. "He's saying something," Mila whispered. "It's not just fire." And everyone fell silent. Chapter 6. Signals from the Past. At night, Sema did not sleep again. He sat by the window, covered with a blanket, and listened to the whispering wind. Everyone in the room was asleep, but he sensed that someone, or something, was waiting. The old radio in the break room was on. Without sound, Sema turned the volume down to the minimum himself. But the scale was blinking. By yourself. It was as if someone was picking up the frequency. And then, a click. "Can you hear me?" A voice croaked. Childish, but detached. It sounded like it was coming from underwater. Sema froze. His heart was pounding so loudly that it seemed he would be heard in the next room. The compass. The lighthouse did not go out. We didn't leave. And there was silence again. Then a crack. The next morning, Sema told Mila about everything. "It's not a dream. I was sure." He was talking about the compass, again, and about the lighthouse. Could it be the captain? Or someone who was with him? "They are children." I heard a child's voice. "Maybe the team wasn't just made up of adults?" Sema nodded. "Or he became a child. There, where I got stuck." At noon they returned to the hut. Sema insisted. "We missed something." Now they knew where to look. Under a collapsed crate in the corner, they found a darkened box wrapped in marine twine. Inside is paper wrapped in oiled cloth. She was kept, protected. The handwriting was ornate, captain's. Anna unwrapped the bundle and began to read aloud. "I wasn't the first. The light is calling to all who are lost. But he doesn't give anyone away. Everything repeats itself here. Wave. The signal. Figure. Voice. The fire in the tower is not just light. He remembers us. The compass will not show the way, because the path is a circle. We left and came back, but not here, and back to where it all started." Anna paused. "It's not just crazy. It's like a warning." That evening, the children went back to the lighthouse. There was no one near him, but the door that couldn't be opened before was now ajar. "We're not going there, are we?" Mila whispered. Sema nodded silently. He took out a compass from his backpack. It was dark and damp inside the lighthouse. The smell is salty, with an admixture of iron. Stone steps led up, and with each step the air became thicker. Upstairs, it's empty. Just a glass dome and a huge lens, rotating slowly like an eye. The fire in the center seemed to be more than just a flame. It was pulsating. And Sema saw a reflection in the glass of the lens. Not his own. A child's face. Pale. The eyes are black. Silent. Sema raised the compass. He fell silent. The needle froze for the first time. She pointed east, toward the ocean. When they came down, There was a radio receiver at the foot of the lighthouse, the one that was in the cabin. He was dry. It was as if someone had just brought him here. He put it down carefully, and there is only one frequency on the scale. Flickering. 1897 kilohertz. This is the year of La Belle Helene's disappearance, Mila whispered. That night, they turned on the radio again. It required no batteries or mains. It just worked, and the voice sounded again. Clearer, louder. Get back what we lost. Bring it to the light. He knows who you are. He remembers. All of you have already been here. And at that moment, the light in the lighthouse blinked. Pause. One more time. Morse code. Word. Repeat. Chapter 7. The Circle of Time. Everything looked fine in the morning, suspiciously ordinary. The sun was shining, seagulls were screaming over the shore, and a light wind was blowing. But this calmness seemed unreal, as if someone had deliberately put it on repeat, like a stage set in a theater to distract from the main thing. Mila noticed that Igor was wearing the same t-shirt today as he had 2 days ago, and he said exactly the same thing at breakfast, word for word. It looks like the weather has finally improved. She exchanged glances with Sema. Did you hear that? He's already said that. Exactly the same. What if we're really in a loop? They decided to conduct an experiment. They tied a red ribbon on a palm tree near the lighthouse. Sema scratched the date August 2nd on the wall of the house. A day passed. Then the second one. On the third day, the ribbon disappeared. The date was erased from the wall. And Igor said again, "It looks like the weather has finally improved." Meanwhile, Anna was diving deeper into the captain's diary. He wrote, "The light in the tower is not just a lighthouse. This is the fork point. The space here is torn like a sail in the wind. We were going to help, but we got into a repeat. I've already lived this day 5 times. One man disappeared forever when he tried to escape beyond the border of the mist. And then, a boy with eyes like mine when I was a kid is standing by the fire. He doesn't know that this is him. Compass is the key, but you don't need to wear a compass. It should be given back." Anna shuddered. The boy with the captain's eyes? Sema? That evening, the family got together. It was necessary to decide, would they continue to live in this cycle, hoping that everything would end by itself? Or would they risk it? "He wants us to give something back," Sema said. "Maybe a compass. And if we disappear, how is his team?" Igor was gloomy. "Or we'll be free," Mila said. "Maybe the cycle is a trap for those who cling to the past." Anna nodded. "We have to go to the tower and do what the captain didn't do." At midnight, they went to the lighthouse. The fog had already covered the island like thick glass. Step by step, the sounds became quieter. Even the sea was silent. Inside, everything was the same as last time. The ladder, the lens, the pulsing light. Sema walked to the very edge of the playground. He held out his hand with the compass. "I don't know who you are, but I feel like you're a part of me, and you want to leave." He placed the compass directly under the lens. The metal rang as if touching a living flame. The arrow shuddered and disappeared. She disappeared. The whole lighthouse trembled. The lights were blinking faster and faster. The fog outside the window began to disperse. And suddenly, absolute silence. Even the sky became clear. Not a sound. For a moment, they saw a figure behind the glass. "Captain." He stood quietly, looking at her. And then he nodded, and he disappeared. In the morning, everything was different. The sea was roaring. The air smelled of sea salt and the sun. Igor made a different joke. And where the ribbon had been, there was now a piece of wood sticking out, with an inscription carved deep into it. "Thanks. Live." Sema looked towards the sea. Somewhere over the horizon, La Belle Helene has finally embarked on the journey it has been waiting for more than a century. Chapter 8. footprints beyond the edge. The night passed, or maybe a day. The time after the lighthouse felt like a soft, trembling film. Everything seemed to be back to normal, but the family felt that reality had changed imperceptibly, as if someone had turned the settings knob just a little. Anna woke up from a strange feeling that someone was standing by the bed, but there was no one there, just the smell of salt and smoke. In the kitchen, Sema kept an old map of the island. He found it in the library cupboard of the hotel. It was lying between books, as if it had been placed there recently. There's a path, but we have not seen such a thing. Which one? Anna came closer. The old road leading inland from the lighthouse. It is called the return line. They went there. There really was a path, almost invisible, narrow, covered with greenery. And with every step, the sounds became muffled, as if the world was closing behind him. The treetops bent over them, forming a tunnel of leaves. Half an hour later, they came to a clearing. In the middle was a circle of stones overgrown with moss. In the center of the circle was an old plaque with letters on it. Mila wiped off the dirt. For those who have passed the circle, don't turn back. You're a trace now, too. What does that mean? What is it? She whispered. Sema looked around. The grass behind them is flattened. Footsteps. Their footsteps? Is that us? Or is someone following us? Anna took out her phone to take a photo, but the screen went black. Not a single button worked. Sema took out his own, the same story. The island won't let you take it away. Or he's taking us away now, Igor said. We're too deeply embedded in his memory. They had the same dream last night. They were standing by the water. There was a lighthouse on the shore, but the tower was destroyed, the stones charred. Silhouettes approached them from the darkness, transparent and indistinct. They were whispering. You broke out, but not all of them. Some are still watching. Some, they remember you. And then the figures turned, walking away into the sea. But one remained. Childish. Sema, with two reflections behind, a little older. In the morning, there was a compass lying near the threshold of the hotel. That's the one. But now it's a new one. The brass shone, and the arrow was pointing inland, not north. Is he calling again? Mila asked. Anna did not answer. She took the compass and, without looking at the needle, said, The island remembers. And now he remembers us. Sema stood at the window and looked at the sea. There, at the horizon line, something was barely flickering. A red light. The one that shouldn't have stayed. And suddenly he understood. The cycle is broken, but the trace remains. They're part of the map now, and maybe someone else will follow them someday. Chapter 9. Return without exit. The morning began with a premonition of anxiety. There's no way to describe it. It just feels like the island is watching their every move. Anna checked her phone, but there was no signal. The car at the hotel wouldn't start. Even the moped, which was rented from a local, stood as if frozen in time. We're stuck, Igor muttered, trying not to panic. No, we're not stuck, Mila said. They won't let us go? The attempt to contact the mainland failed. The radio turned on its own again. A voice was coming from the speaker, the one they had heard before. You left a mark, but the way back is closed. Anyone who goes ahead will find the answers. Sema looked at the compass, which now showed the way inland. The arrow pointed steadily there. We need to go there, he said. What if it's a trap? Anna asked excitedly. If we stay, we will stay forever. They were going to hike inland, following the compass. Along the way, the fog became thicker and the sounds quieter. Suddenly, a silhouette appeared from behind the trees, a man in an old Navy uniform, with eyes full of sadness. I've been waiting for you, he said softly. I'm the captain. Your path is my path. The family stopped, and the captain told them the truth. This island is not just a place. This is a crossroads of destinies and times. Everyone who comes here leaves a piece of themselves. And if you don't let go of the past, it won't let you go. What should we do? Anna asked. Find the light in yourself and release the compass. Then the way will open. Finally, in a clearing where there was a circle of stones, Sema and Mila placed the compass in the center. The lighthouse light shone brighter, as if confirming their decision. The fog began to clear. The birds began to sing louder. When they came ashore, they saw a boat. The captain smiled and disappeared into thin air. The way home is open, Igor said. On a boat, the family sailed towards the horizon. The island was disappearing into the morning haze. But everyone has a thought in their hearts. They have changed. Now they are part of the legend. And maybe someone else will follow in their footsteps someday. Chapter 10, A New Story. We returned home at dusk. The sea was calm, and the sky was full of stars, as if space itself was thanking them for their release. Anna was holding an old map of the island in her hands. She looked different now. There was a new mark on her, as if the island had marked their steps. We left a trail, she said. But this trail does not mean the end. This is the beginning of something new, Igor smiled. The children looked out the window at the flickering light of the lighthouse, which now shone somewhere far beyond the horizon. Do you think someone else will hear the call? Mila asked. I'm sure, Anna replied. And someone else will come here one day, and he will begin his story. That evening, Sema opened his diary. On the last page is a neatly cut inscription. The path is always open for those who are ready to see the light in the dark. And at the bottom is a small symbol, a compass with a tiny star twinkling inside. And somewhere far away, on the other side of the world, in a small town by the sea, a strange light suddenly came on. Light and inviting. The caller. And the story began anew.